In this episode, we're going to do a last-mile confidence check by walking through the most common pitfalls that trip people up on the GCIL exam, and, more importantly, the habits that help you avoid those pitfalls without needing to memorize special tricks. When you are new to cybersecurity, it is easy to think a wrong answer means you did not study enough, but on scenario-based exams, wrong answers often come from the way you interpret the question and the way you react under pressure. The exam tends to reward disciplined incident thinking, and it tends to punish impulsive action, speculation, and overly narrow focus. This confidence check is about stabilizing your approach so you do not sabotage yourself in the final stretch. You will hear pitfalls that sound familiar, like rushing, over-focusing on tools, or assuming facts not given, and you will hear counter habits that keep your decisions calm and defensible. Treat this as a mental rehearsal where you practice noticing the moment you might slip and choosing a better default response. One of the biggest pitfalls is confusing activity with progress, which means choosing an answer that sounds like you are doing something dramatic even though it does not actually reduce risk or increase clarity. Under stress, people love actions like shutting everything down, wiping systems immediately, or launching broad scans, because those actions feel decisive. The exam often includes options like that, and they can look attractive because they sound powerful. The counter habit is to ask what the action accomplishes in incident terms. Does it contain ongoing harm? Does it preserve evidence? Does it improve scoping? Or does it restore trust? If it does none of those clearly, it may be noise rather than progress. This is especially relevant in credential incidents, where resetting one password might feel like progress, but does not help if sessions and recovery settings remain compromised. It is also relevant in cloud incidents, where blaming the provider or waiting for the provider does not reduce exposure you control. If you anchor on progress defined as containment, validation, and recovery, you avoid being pulled toward actions that are emotionally satisfying but operationally weak. Another common pitfall is assuming facts that are not stated, which is a subtle form of overconfidence. Scenario questions often give incomplete information, and beginners try to fill the gaps by imagining what they think is most likely. That is dangerous because the answer choices are built to punish assumptions, especially assumptions like the attacker definitely exfiltrated data or the alert definitely means the system is compromised. The counter habit is to separate what is known from what is suspected and choose an action that works under uncertainty. For example, if you see signs of a credential attack, you can revoke sessions and validate access changes without claiming you know exactly how the credentials were stolen. If you see signs of ransomware encryption, you can contain and protect backups without claiming you know whether data was stolen, while still treating data theft as a possibility to investigate. The exam rewards evidence-driven language and proportional action, not dramatic certainty. When you notice yourself making a story in your head, pull back and ask what the question actually states. A third pitfall is choosing answers that are technically correct but wrong for timing, which is a common trap in incident scenarios. Many exam questions ask what to do first, what to do next, or what to prioritize, and the wrong answers often represent steps that would be correct later. For example, a detailed root cause analysis is valuable, but not while active damage is still happening. A full post-incident report is important, but not while containment is incomplete. A long-term redesign of security architecture may be wise, but not the first response to a live incident. The counter habit is timeline thinking, where you place the incident in phase and then choose actions that match that phase. Early phase actions usually involve containment, scoping, and preserving critical evidence. Middle phase actions involve validation, eradication of persistence, and controlled recovery. Late phase actions involve reporting, compliance considerations, closure criteria, and process improvement. If you can answer the timing question correctly, many answer choices become obviously wrong even if they are technically true statements. Another pitfall is treating incidents as isolated to the first system mentioned, especially when identity is involved. The exam likes to test whether you think in blast radius terms, because real incidents rarely stay contained to one account or one application. Beginners often focus on the system where the alert occurred and ignore the identity hub, shared services, and recovery pathways that can expand impact. The counter habit is to ask whether a hub system is implicated, such as SSO, email, directory services, or cloud control planes. If a hub is implicated, actions that revoke sessions, constrain privileges, and validate permission changes are often higher value than actions that focus only on one endpoint. This also applies to supply chain incidents, where the first visible symptom might be one product, but the blast radius depends on versions, environments, and dependencies across teams. Thinking hub and spoke keeps you from answering as if the environment is a set of disconnected boxes. The exam is testing whether you understand how interconnected systems create compounded risk. A fifth pitfall is being seduced by tool-specific answers, especially for brand-new learners who think expertise equals naming the right tool. The exam is about incident leadership decisions, not about memorizing command lines or vendor features. Tool-heavy answers can be tempting because they sound professional, but they can be wrong if they do not address containment, validation, or recovery priorities. The counter habit is to choose answers that describe outcomes, like revoking sessions, rotating secrets, restricting public access, or validating backup integrity, rather than answers that name a specific product or technique. Even when a tool-specific action could be appropriate, the exam often frames the right answer at a higher level, because leadership is about what must be achieved, not which button you press. This is especially important for cloud and supply chain scenarios, where the environment may vary, but the response logic is stable. If an answer reads like a vendor marketing brochure, be suspicious. If it reads like a clear incident objective, it is often closer to right. A sixth pitfall is poor communication choices, which can appear in exam questions as options that overpromise, speculate, or share sensitive details broadly. Ransomware scenarios are particularly rich in this trap because the urgency makes people want to declare certainty, set unrealistic timelines, or engage attackers informally. The counter habit is disciplined messaging. State known facts, state current actions, state next update points, and avoid claims that cannot be supported yet. For attacker communications, the counter habit is controlled contact through designated roles and legal coordination, with careful documentation and minimal information shared. For stakeholder communications, the counter habit is audience-appropriate clarity, not one-size-fits-all dumping of technical details. The exam often rewards options that emphasize consistent terminology, structured updates, and avoiding rumor amplification. Communication is part of incident control, not a soft skill you do when everything else is finished. If you choose a communication answer that increases confusion or creates liability through speculation, it is likely wrong. A seventh pitfall is failing to verify recovery and declaring closure too early, which is a classic mistake in both real incidents and exam scenarios. Beginners often feel relief when the obvious symptom disappears, such as when ransomware encryption stops or when a suspicious account password is changed. Attackers count on this relief because it leads to premature closure and missed persistence. The counter habit is to require verification before declaring success. Confirm sessions are revoked, confirm recovery paths are clean, confirm no new keys or permissions were created, confirm backups are intact and trustworthy, and confirm monitoring is restored. In cloud incidents, verification includes checking configuration drift and ensuring public exposure is truly removed. In supply chain incidents, verification includes confirming versions and rebuild integrity and ensuring the compromised trust path is reset. Closure criteria should be evidence-driven, not emotion-driven. On the exam, answers that include verification steps often outrank answers that stop at initial containment. An eighth pitfall is taking actions that unintentionally increase attacker leverage, especially in ransomware incidents. For example, restoring systems too quickly without removing attacker access can lead to reinfection, which extends downtime and increases pressure. Disabling logging or making broad, uncontrolled changes can destroy evidence and reduce visibility, making it harder to prove scope and harder to support legal obligations. Communicating internal response steps broadly can tip off attackers about what defenders are doing, giving attackers time to adapt. The counter habit is least regret thinking, where you choose actions that reduce harm and keep options open even if your assumptions are wrong. Least regret does not mean slow. It means proportional and reversible where possible. In ransomware, protecting backups and isolating spread are often least regret moves because they reduce extortion leverage. In credential incidents, Revoking sessions and validating access are least regret moves because they reduce ongoing misuse while you investigate. If an action closes off your own options more than it closes off the attackers, it is often a poor choice. As we close, the last mile confidence check is really about stabilizing your defaults so you can answer consistently even when the questions are uncomfortable. Avoid activity that does not produce containment, clarity, or restored trust. Avoid assumptions and choose actions that work under uncertainty. Match actions to incident phase so you do not do the right thing at the wrong time. Think in blast radius terms, especially around identity hubs, cloud control planes, and supply chain trust paths. Prefer outcome-based answers over tool-based answers. Communicate with discipline. Coordinate with legal when extortion and reporting risk are present, and avoid speculative or overpromising statements. Verify recovery and avoid premature closure, because persistence is a real risk across credential, cloud, supply chain, and ransomware incidents. If you keep these counter habits in mind, your exam day thinking becomes calmer because it is consistent, and consistent thinking is what turns preparation into performance.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.